So we're having technical difficulties, and I believe we are going to pick up, where would you like me to pick up from the agenda,
So
Superintendent
President
Walker?
Paoli, I would suggest that since we ended at the public comment, when you made the public comment, I would suggest that you read the public comment again and we start from that point in the agenda. We apologize to people who are watching this at home. Here's what's going to happen. We are streaming this event, and in the event that we lose our internet access again, this board meeting is being recorded and the recording will be uploaded. So if you lose stream, please rest assured that the recording of this board meeting will be uploaded sometime within the next 24 hours, hopefully. So please bear with us.
Okay, so I'll read the disclosure again. The following public comment was received by the district using the public comment email address. For ease of public participation, it will be read into the record by a district employee. This should not be construed as an endorsement of this comment by the district or as the position of the district.
We now have two public comments, and let me read our first one. The first one is from Megan Carone. This was received on January 6th. Hello, Ms. Walker. I would like to inform you that my 9-year-old attended the basketball tournament and also contracted COVID. This I know for a fact because it was the only place he went over the winter break. He is fully vaccinated and was wearing a quality mask. Oddly, he was only inside the tournament for no more than half an hour on both Wednesday and Thursday. He and his friends chose to play park hour outside instead. I would never have let my child attend a mask optional event had I known. I was sent photos of the tournament and was appalled at the amount of people not wearing masks, including one of the scorekeepers whose family member had COVID over Christmas. Unfortunately, we will never know how many people were affected physically and financially because of this tournament. Fortunately, my son is asymptomatic, or I would have been far more enraged. Financially, it won't destroy me to have to close my business for a week while we quarantine, but it would for many people. Good thing we didn't go visit the grandparents on Sunday like we normally do. It could have been a very unfortunate visit if we had. I trusted the school district to maintain basic safety standards, so I am rather disturbed that not a single person in the position of authority bothered to ask people to wear masks. Whose job was that? Let's start being honest about the consequences of this poorly planned event. Thank you for your time, Megan Carone. The other public comment that we just received was from Katie Turner. Not really a public comment, but the live stream of tonight's meeting went down after you approved the agenda. So hopefully it's fixed now. And we have no other public comment other than those two.
Okay, thank you. So we will have the patriotic exercise by Trustee Babcock.
Kathy, I don't have the picture anymore. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. In honor of Dr. Martin Luther King, his birthday this month, I wanted to read one of his quotes that was linked to education. And it's, "The function of education is to teach one to think intensely and to think critically. Intelligence plus character is the goal of true education." And I just wanted to take a moment to celebrate him this month.
Great. Thank you. And we have acknowledgments next on the agenda.
Yes. We have 3 items to acknowledge. $1,700 was received from the Jane Anderson Development Disability Endowment Fund of the Community Foundation of Mendocino County to support the FBUSD Transition Learning Center Garden Program. $100 was received from Barbara and Dan Belli to support the Splash Fund at the FBUSD Alternative Education School site. And $75 was received from Pamela Salyards to support the Redwood Elementary Library in memorial of Ted Rex. Thank you to all our donors.
And we also have an employee retirement under acknowledgments.
Oh, yes, sorry. The board would like to acknowledge the following district employee retirements: Fort Bragg High School, and actually it's Fort Bragg Unified School District bus driver Tom Fiak, retired after 15 years of service. So Tom touched a lot of kids. So thank you, Tom, for your years of service.
Thank you. I still remember my high school bus driver. So they are really embedded in your memory forever. Every time I go by Cloverdale. So number 6 on our agenda is communications. Did anyone receive any communications?
Nothing in addition to what Superintendent Walker's already disclosed.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I got it.
Nothing. The only thing I had received was from our PACER group, encouraging us to watch the CSBA Governor's Budget webinar, and then the Capital Advisors is offering, you can pick any county office of education to give another synopsis of the governor's budget. So if anyone wants more lingo and trying to interpret the budget that's, I don't know, 300 pages, let me know and I can forward you the link I received if you didn't receive it. Anyone in the audience and public as well. So do we have public comment on agenda items?
There's no public comment.
Okay. Anyone in the audience have public comment? Okay. So we have 8.1, our student representative, Joe's here, and you're welcome to leave our meeting at any moment if you have other obligations, but we are so happy that you're here to give your report.
All right, thank you. I'm glad to be here. All right, starting with my report, we've got Redwood Elementary, and at Redwood, on the 27th of this month, there is a virtual positive parenting night that is being organized by the counselor Catherine Bernsdorf and delivered by Jade Aldrich and the bilingual family liaison Martha Lopez. The English session is at 5:15 p.m. and Spanish is at 6, and this will be the first of a 3-part series of seminars. Also at Redwood on the 28th of January is Coffee with the Principal from 9 to 9:30 a.m. And for Dana Gray, at Dana Gray they're currently finishing up the second round of benchmark iReady assessments. The Dana Gray ELAC meeting is on Tuesday, January 25th at 5:30. The Dana Gray Site Council meeting is Thursday the 27th at 3:30. The Parents Club meeting is on the February 8th at 5:30 p.m. And for all of these meetings, please contact the Dana Gray front office if you want to get a video link to participate. And also the Zun Zun Music Assembly is planned for February 15th. It's a musical and dance presentation about water and power conservation. At the middle school, the first home basketball game since their 2-week break occurred, and everything went super smooth. There were no issues at all. Besides that, the middle school started wrestling and softball, and soccer will be starting soon. And at the high school, winter sports have resumed, and we're working on making up all of the canceled games. Student of the Month awards will be handed out tomorrow during advisory, and the next round of advisory workshops will be the week of February 7th. Some examples of past workshops are volleyball, friendship bracelets, painting and crafts, origami, sneaker cleaning, the weight room, games and puzzles, silent reading, and meditative coloring. At the high school, there's also the freshman information night that is on February 10th from 5:30 to 6:30, and spring sports will be starting on February 7th. And from Noyo High School, I just have a small thing that alternative education will be having a soccer game and barbecue with the Cast Guard, might be Coast Guard, on 1/27, the 27th. Thank you.
Thank you. That sounds fun. Very good. So our next item of reports is the school plan for student achievement mid-year review, and we have our site administrators here, excluding we'll have alternative education in February. So I'm sorry to miss Connie's report, but we do have Redwood Elementary next in line.
All right. Thank you for being here. We are on track and moving forward on all of our goals of our site plan. I wanted to give you the highlights. Teachers and staff are loving the career day. Our counselor's great about reminding us that the first Thursday of each month we need to wear our career and college garb. Sometimes we have to guess what the other person is exemplifying with their outfit, and that's a good time. We are looking forward to having guest speakers. We were not able to do that during the first trimester because we didn't have visitors on campus at that time. but we're looking forward to having that happen for the second and third trimesters. And we're working with our tech team to prepare the digital portfolios that we're going to have kids contribute to in May. Academic achievement, we're doing so much with that. Our TOSA is extremely helpful. She's working with our grade levels and with individuals, supporting them, making sure that they're making movement on the pacing calendars, addressing specific questions and concerns that teachers have. We are doing small group instruction for English language arts and mathematics on a daily basis at Redwood. That's how we deliver our Tier 2 intervention, as well as kids are being pulled out to work with our 2 reading intervention teachers for small group instruction. And our site, with the support of Kelly Smith, our teachers, we developed some unified goals. So as a site, we have some goals that we're working on all together in terms of academics. And I wanted to highlight what our teachers are doing. In the site plan, it says that we're going to evaluate things on a monthly basis. Our teachers are actually doing that on a weekly basis in their PLC meetings. They're taking those plans that we created with Kelly Smith, identifying one area, either math or English language arts, and crafting together a target goal that they want their students to work on. They plan those lessons, they plan the assessment measures that they're going to use to evaluate the levels of mastery, and then we report that out to each other each Wednesday after the PLC meetings have taken place. So it's really exciting to hear what everybody's working on each week. And then school culture, we're on track with a very low suspension rate. Absenteeism is definitely an issue. It's tricky to get kids to school with COVID, with having to quarantine, with, unfortunately, people do still schedule trips during the school year. But we're doing the best that we can with that. We've got the school-wide information system, SWIS, has been up and running since September. We continue to evaluate the student behavior data regularly and identify areas that we need to improve. And I wanted to highlight that it is a super stressful time right now. With the COVID surge happening right now, everybody's really burning the candle at both ends, but it still feels good at Redwood. And I see our staff going above and beyond and really finding creative ways to lift each other up. So it still feels really good. Questions about any of that?
Well, I'm very excited to hear about the work with Kelly Smith on campus. So I went to the site council in December and it sounded really exciting. So I'm excited for you guys. My question is, are most families in person? I know right now it might be a little because of the short-term independent study, but most families want to be on campus. There's not as many full-year independent studies.
Correct.
Okay.
We have a small number of students who are on independent study. We have a large number of students on short-term independent study, but they're receiving work directly from the classroom teacher.
Great.
But the vast majority are in person.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions from the board?
Hang in there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have Dana Gray, Mr. Kale.
Thank you very much. I would, so I'm Rick Kale, principal from Dana Gray. I would reiterate as well, our staff at Dana Gray is positive. We're working well together. Everything's going great. We are in this amazing surge right now, and our lives has changed a lot, so we're working on it. So there's 3 goals, again, to review what those 3 overarching goals are: increase student college and career readiness, close the achievement gap, and improve school culture. At Dana Gray, we have, and just what I've done is just went through each of the actions and just give you an update on each of those actions really quickly. We're using student folder planners and student calendars in the classroom. Our school counselors are working with all of our grade levels to play the career path life choice game, so that's very exciting. Counselor as well as classrooms are having assignments based on career lessons. We're working on the digital portfolio assignment in the spring. We're hoping to put that together. There's still a lot of technical issues related to that, but we're working on it. I've been talking with Mendocino College about the 5th grade field trip. You know, we're really planning, all of the planning that I'm doing is really from a cup half full kind of plan. There's a lot of hurdles that we've got to get through before we can get to that field trip. But we're working on it, and Mendocino College is right behind us there. They really want to make that happen in the spring. The Adopt a 5th Grader program is still going with the Mendocino College Foundation. That's for the 5th grade students. And we have a career day planned for, we have the date set, and we're meeting with Edie Omans and our school counselor. We've already had meetings to have our career day in the spring. As far as the achievement gap, we are in the middle of giving our iReady assessments. The second one, we're right on path with that. And we're doing tons of data analysis, working with Kelly Smith, working with our TOSA. It is really exciting. We are, one of the action plans was the intervention progress monitoring using the LLI program. We are seeing amazing growth in students with our 2 intervention teachers, and we're able to look at that constantly in our solutions team committee meeting, in our grade level committee meetings, so it's really exciting. We're seeing a lot of student growth, and we're able to measure it very closely, which is great. We're having professional development at the grade levels where they're analyzing the PLC data that we looked at and that we presented before. So that's happening. We're continuing to look at student engagement strategies with Kelly Smith, looking at math games across grade levels and ORR calibration and standards mappings and pacing guides, all of the things that make learning really powerful. And the teachers are doing amazing at that. Last goal is improving school culture. All of our classrooms have respect agreements. We have a respect agreement for the school as a whole, for the staff as a whole. So it's really fantastic. We have had one successful PBIS expectation station at the beginning of the year. We had one planned, and then we got rained out, so that was a problem. We're giving CATCHA rewards tickets and implementing PBIS across the school. We're having weekly drawings, reward drawings related to CATCHA tickets. The admin, counselor, parents club, and staff are planning assemblies. We have great plans. Well, our Zune assembly, we hope that's going to happen. It's a pretty cool music assembly. We're trying to get the Sky Dome assembly back, which is really popular, and also a BMX assembly at the end of the year is planned related to bringing up school culture. During rainy day recesses, we have a chess club that meets, which is really kind of cute, actually. And they meet during the rainy day. On regular days, we have a new group called the Dana Gray Guardians. Yeah, it's just like Guardians of the Galaxy or something. Anyway, they're very excited about picking up trash, even such that they want me to put trash down so they can pick it up. They're just a fun, cute group of kids that are being led by our instructional aides. It's really fun. We're having trimester awards assemblies that are happening, virtual assemblies. Again, the school counselor is fully implementing PBIS. We are heavily using, and with support from the county, we're using our Swiss tracking system that Redwood uses as well. So we're getting some great data and monitoring of behavioral data for kids. We have a full implementation, I really believe, full implementation of our SART committee. That's our attendance review team committee. It's been a tough time for attendance, really tough time for attendance. And we're helping folks out to see how we can really support them getting to school. Again, we're having attendance awards. We're sending cards home to families supporting improved attendance. We're doing monthly birthday cards to kids and congratulation cards, little postcards, sending them home. It's so cute when kids come up to me and they say, "Thank you for the birthday card." I'm like, "Oh, that's so nice. I don't remember sending them the birthday cards, sorry." But we're filling them out. There's so many that we fill them out. And it's about building school culture. And again, we have strong continued use of buddy classrooms, tier 2 check-in, check-out systems, timeout reflections that we use for students, restorative practices, restorative circles. We're doing a lot of that work. It's interesting during this last surge and kind of a drop in attendance, our behavior has really gone to almost zero. Like we don't, it's really, really calm at Dana Gray, which is a good thing, knock on wood. It's a good thing, yes, shh, shh. But other than that, we're just rolling along, and I think we're in the right place related to our site plan. Any questions?
Great.
My same question, just that you have most students that are in person.
Yes, yeah.
Any other
yeah.
comments from the board?
Thank you for your eternal optimism.
I like, you know, people, that idea of planning from the cup half full, you know, yes, we're gonna be there. Like, we're gonna have assemblies, it's gonna be exciting. And if we don't, we'll change them into virtual assemblies. We'll figure out how to do it, so.
So I do have one question, which you talked about now that attendance is down, but before the break, did you see that kids were starting to have less circles and things? You know, really, was behavior getting better from the time we started in August till you went out on break? Were kids getting back in the groove?
That's a great question. I think at the beginning of the year, there was very much a honeymoon period where kids were just very excited to be in person. There was a dip in behavior, and we saw that, but I really feel like we were improving very well. We were getting back into the groove. And that's how we were able to get all of the restorative practices, the restorative circles. Our school counselor was going from classroom to classroom doing morning circles, you know, check-in circles in all of our classrooms. We were seeing some really positive stuff. Right now, it's hard to tell because attendance is so low, you know, like, and there is no behavior. Again, knock on wood. But yeah, we were on the right track, and we'll be back.
Well, I was just noticing my own children, they had a hard time going back, like,
Yeah.
and getting in that, you know, they were pushing the boundaries. And so it's interesting that the younger kids were
I think it was very.
behaved better than my middle school son.
Each group is different, of course, but yeah, I think we were very much on a good pace, and really working all of the systems we have. One of the great systems is the Swiss data system that allows us to track it, and we're really working on getting data from teachers, from support staff, and then analyzing. We have monthly PBIS committee meetings where we look at that data and like break it down in different ways to try and figure out what's exactly going on. Trouble in the cafeteria or the bathroom or where, you know, wherever the thing is, and then coming up with solutions for those problems.
They are, everybody's sure happy to be back.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great,
Bye.
thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Mr. Kale.
So
And
we have,
President Paoli, just in response to that general question for everyone, we have more students in person. The vast majority is in person. Right now, we have, I believe, a little under 70 students district-wide who are on full-time independent study.
thank you. So the next school, we have Fort Bragg Middle School with Laura Vieira.
Good evening, Laura Vieira, Fort Bragg Middle School. So for our mid-year site plan review, our first goal, increase college and career readiness. We too have college and career days where people are dressing up once a month. We continue with our 6th grade elective wheel, 7th grade semester-long electives, and then a year-long elective selection for our 8th graders. We're offering Spanish and Avid. We have agriculture for our CTE Cornerstone, I think it's called, for the CTE pathway. And then for goal 2, increase academic success, we have our early release Wednesdays where our teachers are focused on their PLC professional learning communities. We're also working with Kelly Smith on data analysis and student engagement strategies. This is our first year with LLI, the Leveled Literacy Intervention class, and it is helping build those foundational skills for our kids who don't have IEPs but who still need some additional support. We have our EL coordinator who's supporting our second language learners prepare for the LPAC, which I don't know what that stands for, but it's the English language acquisition. Anyway, it's for our second language learners. And then we have a bilingual aide that supports our newcomers in the classroom as they learn routines and procedures. Goal 3, improving school culture. We are focusing on MTSS, the multi-tiered systems of support, which folds in PBIS, positive behavior intervention systems. We're also doing the CATIAs and recognizing good behavior. Dr. Dale says you get more of what you pay attention to, so we're paying attention to the kids that are doing the right thing. We too are doing community building circles, restorative practices. Our leadership class has been doing school events. During lunchtime, they did a volleyball rally out on our field because we couldn't do it in the gym. It was so well received, it was beautiful. And our counselor is running small social emotional groups and also running community circle building activities in every PE class. on a regular basis. Questions?
And LPAC is English Language Proficiency Assessments for California. It replaced the CELT.
Thank you. I know what it is, I just can't.
Yeah.
I know what it is too, and I have to tell you, that was one of those acronyms. I knew the P was proficiency, but I forgot what the assessments for California, so thank you for the opportunity to review that, Mrs. Teacher.
Thank you.
Any questions from the board?
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And our next school site is the Fort Bragg High School with Bruce Triplett.
Welcome, everyone. Again, I'm Bruce Triplett, principal of the high school. And similar to everyone else, there's a lot of the same goals, our increased student readiness for college and career. We have been expanding our dual enrollment classes, which, we're always looking. We meet with Minnesota College probably at least 4 times a year. We meet with them, and we've already started to look at our next year's schedule, so we're always trying to add a few more and improve that. Similar, we do the once a month dress-up days. We're lucky to have another ag CTE teacher, so that's been great to expand our ag program. So now we have consistently have ag mechanics and ag wood, which is great. We also have a 40-hour-a-week employee in the Career and College Center. So that's been great. It's been opened up every day. Kids go in there, and it's been a great resource. Second goal, to close the achievement gap. Similar to everybody else, we're working with Kelly Smith, and it's been great. It's been tough at times because with everything that's happened in the schools, but I think it's been great to, the data analysis that we're really focusing on, and I think it's kind of honed our skills in what we're looking at, which has been, I think, very beneficial with the high school. ER days is similar. Improving school culture, that's been, the trickiest one. We've had dance, but we have it outside. We're planning for the prom, and, we'll see how it goes. If it's indoors, we'll be masked. We'll test everybody like we did at the other dance. What else do we have? Sports, we just got done with a basketball game. It was great to see kids out there playing sports again. We're back into it, and it's been tough. I think in our league, it's been one cancellation after another. So, and I think some, they're limited in the capacity, which has been tough. So I'm glad we still can have them in there. And I'm here to report that not one person came without a mask on, which was great.
Thank you, Mr. Triplett.
We our counselors are doing the social emotional learning once a week in class. They do a lesson for the teachers. It's been, it's been pretty easy for them to, they go right in. They have a 2-minute or a clip that they show a little video, and then they talk about it with each other. And it's been good. I think this week was leadership, little click on leadership. So it's been good. What else have we done? The tough ones are like the normal ones the kids are used to, the once a month. We'll have activities at lunchtime, so that's been kind of tough. We haven't really been able to get all those up and running, and we as well we've had quite a few kids out with the short-term contracts, but I think our attendance last week was 90-something%. So I think our worst, we dipped down
Wow.
to like 84, but we've hit the 90s, so it's been pretty good.
Your low was 84?
I think that was our
Wow.
low. We went down to 80-something.
Wow, that's impressive.
I think that's the highlights of FBHS. So any questions?
Board? Did the girls win tonight?
They did.
Very good. I know, I was hoping I could make it because I thought it was going to be at 7, but but I want to thank all the sites, the admin and your staff. You guys do valuable work, and I know it's so valuable because even when kids don't feel good, they want to be at school at any age. You tell them they have to be home for 10 days, they don't want to be home for 10 days. So you guys are doing amazing work, and I appreciate everyone's efforts to make kids feel important. So our next item on the agenda is Superintendent Report 8.3, COVID update.
So for us right now, the California Department of Public Health did release new county orders in the area of isolation and quarantine. So we've been working with Dr. Korn to update our school protocols. At this time, the school protocols, and I'll talk about this later in the agenda as well, We're hoping to have those updated for February 1st, so you'll see those on the February 10th agenda. That's the plan. But right now, just to give you an update of how the isolation and quarantine orders have changed, the isolation orders are really what's changed for us and are most impactful. So just to give everybody an idea of how this is counted so folks understand, the isolation orders and the quarantine orders allow you to test on day 5. And if you are COVID positive, or if you are quarantining because you're a close contact, on day 5, if you test negative, then you can return on day 6. And let me correct this. Let's just do isolation first, because quarantine's different, so I apologize. If you test positive for COVID-19, the day you test positive is day 0. So today is Thursday. If I tested positive today on Thursday, today would be day 0. I would count 5 days from Thursday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So Tuesday is day 5. On Tuesday, I could go to the district office and do a COVID test. If I'm negative on that Tuesday, then I can go back to school or work on Wednesday. So the day you test positive is day 0. Here's the other hard part. The day that you report to us is day 0. But the main thing is that we need to know as soon as possible so we can start counting those 5 days. You can come to the district office and get a rapid test. There was some confusion today. I received a call from an administrator and wanted to know, hey, do we report all of our rapid tests? And I have to tell you, we report all of our rapid tests. We have a worker in the district office. Every test that is given, whether negative or positive, gets reported to public health through the Mendocino Coast Clinics. And just to give everyone an idea, just the district office alone on Tuesday tested 265 people in our community. So our COVID secretary is going to input all of those 265 cases. We have people testing multiple times a week now because if they've tested positive for COVID, they want to get back to school. In order to get back to school, they have to show a negative test. So we have people who are coming by every day now, and we're good friends with them. So our little COVID camp out in the front of the district office is really set up to take people one at a time, and we're trying to provide that testing for the community. So for our students and for our staff. So just know that we are doing our best. So that's the change in the isolation. Prior it was you had to be out for 10 days and you had to get cleared for public health. Now you can come back earlier. The quarantine, we're still holding to our former quarantine orders, which were, if you are a close contact, you're out for 5 days. If you test negative, if you're asymptomatic and you test negative on day 5, you can come back on day 7, and on day 7, if you're still negative, you can go back to school. So that is remaining the same. As much as possible right now, we're all trying to talk to each other and make sure that we're being consistent with this. I think the difficulty is that the rules have changed on the isolation, which causes some confusion with the quarantine. And then they're going to change again. So when they change again, we'll update the new order, and then I will meet with the site administrators and all of our COVID frontline workers so that we're all on the same page so that we can all count the same. There was some confusion with the counting in the beginning because we hadn't called the testing day 0. It does make it easier to count, so anybody can count the same way that we're counting. So even if someone called me right now today at 6:54 and said, hey, Mrs. Walker, my son, we just took an at-home test and my child just tested positive for COVID, we would still count today, anytime today that we are notified would be day 0. Okay? So that's the main change for right now. There is going to be some change with the group quarantine that CDPH put out, so we'll be looking at that a little bit more closely. I'm going to be working with Martha Marino Sanchez, who is our school liaison, to modify our protocols to match the current CDPH guidance. We will be forwarding those to Dr. Corin for his blessing. So that's what that looks like. I did have a question this week from a parent who said, how come everything on the COVID dashboard for FBUSD says they're all out of school transmissions? That has to do with the contact tracing and between what's happening at public health and what's happening in our own district. It is impossible right now for us to devote staff to do a robust job with contact tracing, and so we've been relying on public health. And public health, we have one school liaison for 12,000 public school students. So we're struggling, and what I had talked to one person, I said, we're all doing the best that we can. We move them into a school-based transmission when it's reported to us that it is a school-based infection. And right now we haven't had that. So someone said, well, they're all getting it from school. Well, I'm sorry, they're not. When we look at our spreadsheet very closely, our principals look at it very closely. Where are the kids coming from? What are the dates that they're getting it? Who is their friend group? We can look at our spreadsheet and tell if there's one classroom that's getting a little bit harder hit than others. And we talk to the teachers and do our best to make sure that if there's something happening that we know about it. So for right now, know that we are doing our best to try and keep everything up, to let everybody know. Our dashboard is really reporting numbers right now. When I confer with public health and we do have something that's undetermined, I'll move it over. Right now it's difficult to get a hold of public health, not because they don't want to be helpful. They're inundated just like we are. And I have to just take my hat off to public health. Martha Marina Sanchez, our public school liaison, has been a saint. She gets back to me always within a half an hour. She's been really good about helping us navigate some of the difficult nuances of the new order, and she's doing her best to really work with schools so that we have clear communication. So that's kind of the COVID update in a nutshell. Bottom line, the guidance is going to change again, and we'll have more to share on February 10th.
Any questions, board members?
No.
So the only question I have is a clarifying question, because it is confusing, because I feel like we're general public, but K-12 is not really, I guess K-12 is unique. What's on the website is for healthcare providers. So is that, which is kind of confusing because it talks about who's vaccinated, who's unvaccinated, and if it's 5 day, 7 day, and that's what's on the school district. So that's how we're classified right now as
We'll
of
fix that.
January 5th?
So when we first, if we could fix that, Renee, there's the healthcare.
Because there's also general public one page, but I'm sure that doesn't apply to us. But
So what
then,
happened was when Public Health released that order on January 5th, it was released the evening of the 5th. And so I sent out the parent square message to everybody. And then that link that we had came off.
yeah.
And so when I went back to the site, the only thing that was on was the January 6th order. So I took that link. Then the next day, the January 5th order was back.
Okay, so it's changing on
So-
the county side.
So
Yeah.
we will update the January 5th order so that it's not the health order.
The healthcare.
Right.
Yeah,
It's the-
professionals.
it's
Because I
the-
thought, oh my gosh, we have to go to that level.
No, we don't.
Okay.
So we will update the website, so it's the January 5th, but there was an issue with the link because several people had called me and said, hey, that link doesn't work. And when I had gone on that night, which is why those of you who are inundated with Parade Square messages from Becky Walker, it happened that night because I had too many messages saying, we can't get the link, we can't get the link. And when I'd gone on the site, it was gone. And how do I know it was gone? Because I sent out that link to the superintendents prior to sending out the parent square message in an email. And when I went back to that email, that's what I checked. That email link was also dead.
Okay.
So anyway, there was some issues with that. The new order was placed back up. We'll make sure that the January 5th order for the general public gets placed on our website and not the January 6th order, which was for healthcare workers. So thank you
Okay.
for saying that.
Yeah, no problem, but it sounds like it's changing, so it might be moot, but in the interim, we can know we're general public.
And just to let all of you know, we've seen the surge in all of our schools. I had several people call me this week and say, one of them was Dr. Miller. Becky, I heard that half the middle school is out because of COVID. And I said, Dr. Miller, all of our data is on our dashboard. We try and keep it very public and transparent. I said, I'm doing the math. 35 or 36 people out of 451 is not half. I said, yes, we do have many parents who've opted to take their kids out and to have them at home during this surge, and we support the decisions of our families. Everyone needs to do what helps them and makes them feel safe, so we will support our families' decisions. So Dr. Miller didn't realize that we had the dashboard. He then went to look at it and then understood. We have felt the surge in Fort Bragg Unified, and just to be completely transparent, When we left break in December, we had 102 people between August 18th, the first day of school, to December 17th, and it was really December 2nd because we had no COVID cases from December 3rd to December 17th. From August 18th to December 2nd, we had 102 people report as COVID positive in that period. When we came back from break, I started recording the people who had notified us over the break that they were COVID positive. But from the time of the winter break in December to January 14th, we had 204 people, an additional 204 people report. So by the time we got to January 14th, we had 306 people from August 18th report positive for COVID-19. In that time from the break to January 14th, our numbers tripled. 102 times 3 is 306. That's where I say the word triple. So now, the next week after the Martin Luther King holiday, on that Tuesday, we again felt another surge. We reported, I believe, and let me check the spreadsheet. We reported 64 people to public health on that Tuesday that were confirmed with us to be COVID positive. 64 people on the Tuesday after the Martin Luther King break. We've never had 60 people all at once. And it was just, that was the day that we tested 265 people. So we had more people testing, we had more people come up positive. But there was definite travel over the break. We had some community events over the break, over that 3-day holiday. So here we go. On Wednesday, we reported yesterday, we reported another 34 people. And then today, it's down to 8.
Ooh, it's going
So
down.
we're starting to shrink it, and I say that, and I have no idea what's gonna happen tomorrow. But we are feeling it be reduced. So with that, know that we are experiencing the surge also in Fort Bragg Unified, and we're doing everything we can to honor our families' decisions and keep folks safe.
Any other questions?
No.
Thank you for the information. 8.32 is Governor's Revised Budget Update. And I believe Wendy Boyce is helping.
Sure, okay. There's not, I don't have enough detailed information to give you an in-depth report, but basically there is a 5.33% COLA that's coming in, that's an ongoing, that will be ongoing, and that's applied to the LCFF funds as well as a couple of the other categoricals from the state. Of all the new money, 40% of it is one time, and with strings attached. So it's yes, there's more money, but some of it is going to be compromised, so to speak. They are talking about providing some relief for the ADA cliff that many districts are looking at right now. And there's been talk of allowing a 3-year average, or the greater of current year, prior year, or a 3-year rolling average. That would be very helpful for us because the next year would be a little difficult to just jump into after having been held harmless for a couple of years. The other thing that's trying to get moved through is moving to an enrollment-based formula rather than an ADA-based formula. And if that happened, that would also be helpful for us. The COLA at 5.33 sounds like a really nice number. The difficulty with that is the consumer price index went up 7%. So all of our other costs are going up more than the COLA that's being applied. And again, there are some legislators that are putting pressure to increase that COLA to keep up with that and help school districts with all the other cost increases that they're definitely going to be looking at. The other thing that they didn't do that everybody was hoping for was some buy down of the PERS and STIRS, which could again still happen between now and May. For instance, for PERS, we would be going from 22.91% to 26.1%. And STIRS would be going from 16.92 to 19.1%. So those are pretty large hits to the bottom line if they aren't mitigated. So we are really hoping that some of these things that several lawmakers are talking about are moved into the budget. A lot will depend on how the Omicron impacts the economy. It's everybody's thinking that it looks like a pretty quick surge and then drop off. The East Coast is already seeing large drop offs, so we're usually a couple of weeks behind them. So we're hoping that things will get back to a revised normal that we had before the holiday break, to where we can start feeling a little more comfortable and getting back a little more to normal. So, this is always kind of an up in the air thing until May. The other thing that you probably see in there is the requirement that districts do not maintain more than 10% reserve. That does not apply to us because we are below 2,500 ADA. So that 10% cap does not apply to us. So that's helpful too. It allows us to kind of weather the ups and downs a little better, having a more comfortable reserve. So I attended one virtual budget update yesterday, or no, was that this morning? I don't remember anymore. And then I'm going to be doing another one tomorrow, so I'll get another different perspective on it and mesh it all together, and then we'll get a new calculator which gives us our LCFF numbers or see where we go there. I can't use the old one because there are too many pieces that change in the body of the formulas. So once they come up with that, I'll be able to put our numbers in there and see how it impacts us with the changes in the ADA.
Any questions for Wendy Boyce?
I had one that really isn't about this, but it mentioned the funding for electric school bus. Did we ever get the school bus?
We've had it on order for a year and a half, and they had supply issues, and then they had some other issue, and we're still waiting for it, but we got a grant for it. We're just waiting. So yeah, we are going to do that. And I haven't had a chance to talk to Barry about if we want to get another one, because if we're going to build the charging station, we might as well kind of move our fleet in that direction if we can. So I don't know how competitive the grant is, but I'm going to talk to him to see if we want to do that.
Jerry?
Should be interesting.
The devil in the
Yes, it will.
details. Yeah, devil in the details. So the PERS and STIRS calculation when will you know what our obligation will be? Is it
May.
in May?
Well, because that's when the revised budget comes out. So this is the first salvo by the
Mhm.
governor, and the legislators are going to, pile on and try to get everything they can done, and it's an election year, so everybody's going to try to make their constituents happy, we hope. And hopefully they'll give us some relief in that. That's happened the last couple of years where when the final budget came out, there was a little bit of relief in there, because those are pretty big jumps for any district, really. So.
And do you foresee the potential special education increase that's based on the LEA numbers, or I don't know if it's
not
need?
so much for us. There are some of the categoricals that do directly come to districts that will see a little bit of an increase. But the base funding, our SELPA is already funded at a higher level than most around the state. So we're not anticipating that our SELPA is going to see much more revenue out of that.
Yeah, the webinar I had watched, it made it sound like it was going to be based on the LEA, and which would maybe increase funds, but then it went into the SELPA, and then it's distributed however the SELPA decides. So it didn't know if it would help us with
It's
that.
not going to help us.
Probably not
Okay.
in the long run. No.
Okay. Very good. Thank you for the report.
I think I'll take this as my moment to head out.
Thank you so much for attending.
Put her right to sleep.
Thank you, Joe.
Way to go, Wendy.
Congratulations for staying as long as you did.
It's good stuff. So the next item is construction project update, and it looks like we have Don Alameda with us.
Is that what the,
Hi, Don.
it's stressful on that hour, but here.
Hi, Don, go ahead with your report, and then I'm gonna piggyback on yours, because we do have a display to show the board.
Okay, you have the stuff from yesterday, right? Because I don't have that on my.
Oh, okay, well then, let me just jump in then. So on the table over against the west wall, are all the pictures, and I will move past these to you. But these are the pictures of Alt Ed, the renderings. We met yesterday, to talk about colors and look at the schematics of what's planned for Alt Ed. I have to tell you, it's very exciting. So if you get a chance, check out what's going on over at the table. You'll see samples of the tile, sample of the colors, sample of the countertops, the siding, the paint swatches. I sent pictures of all this to Alt Ed today. I met with Connie yesterday in my office so she could view all of this. I'm happy to say that all of us agree that none of us like the yellow. So sorry, Don. Sorry, Don.
No, I'm not here for that either.
Okay, thank God. So if you look at the main picture of the main building, there's a kind of a greenish yellowy color. And when you look at it in the pictures, it's supposed to pop out. It just pops out, and it people did not have an attractive word for it. So we're gonna ask QKA to adjust that yellow. The Alt Ed site requested if there was any way to do some kind of a teal kind of color to pop out instead of that kind of a mustard yellow. So, but everything else they liked. They did ask if they could remove the mustard yellow from the student services building and the front of the office as well, but they loved the countertop, and there's a sample of the countertop. So just a few adjustments on that, Dawn. So when we meet with QKA, if we can do some adjustment of colors before it goes into full bloom here. But there's also a sample of the flooring. It's going to be polished concrete in the classrooms, and there's a nice little sample of that. It's actually really, really cool. And if you look at the pictures, you'll see all the fine detail that they have in the plans. And what's neat about doing construction right now is that they can actually infuse students in there, make-believe students, but you can kind of get a good feel of what it's going to look like. I love the front of the building and how modern it looks. I think they've done a really good job with the design. We have gone through and asked all the little questions about cost. The classrooms, there will be 6 classrooms, and the classrooms that's pictured on the table is the double classroom. That can be either 2 rooms or 1 big room with the garage door that opens up, and the garage door is all glass so that it's transparent. It's a really, really exciting facility to see. So I would welcome you to take a look at it. If there are things that you have questions about, just send those questions to Renee. And we'll make sure that Dawn and Barry and Wendy and I get them on our next meeting with QKA. Other than that, where we are in the process is we do need to get the color scheme narrowed down so that we can get a more of a detailed line item cost analysis. Is that correct, Dawn?
Yes, I mean, knowing the materials is more important than the color, but
Okay,
ultimately
sorry.
they want to put the colors in the spec as well, so it is in the timeline. But narrowing the materials is probably more critical for the cost, the color.
So that's where we're at right now. So did I miss anything with Alt Ed, Dawn?
I'm sorry, what?
Did I miss anything with Alt Ed?
No, Alt Ed's a pretty exciting meeting yesterday, and I think they're on mark on 99% of it. We just gotta work on that green, or that yellow, or whatever you want to call it. So, and I think they got the message, and they're working towards some alternatives for those colors, or that color. So.
And then as far as Redwood goes, we're still stuck in red tape. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're at the cusp of getting ready for construction. I've got a brief summary from the report. Do you want me to put that up if I can?
Sure.
I just gotta figure out how to share a screen or whatever.
You should be able to present.
Okay, see, raise hand, oh, present now?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'll do my entire screen and then, okay. Okay, do you guys see that? Try to do the slide. Do you guys see that?
We see you, Don, but we don't see your screen. Can you share your screen?
I can.
Okay.
Don, do you want me to pull the PowerPoint up on my screen?
Sure, let's do that. I'm foisted here.
I'll throw my
I'll
mouse
back
over here
up.
first.
Okay.
Okay. It's still live.
It's in June. It's in the 8.33.
Yeah, no, I have it open.
Oh.
I'm just trying to figure out which. There.
There we go.
Okay,
Okay, Don.
we have lots of
All
numbers.
right. Okay, we'll wing it. It's only 4 slides, but I could, the 2 of them I'll talk more on. This one here is a summary from the report. Basically, it tells you what the expenditures to date are. There haven't been any change orders, so no contingency used. But I thought, just to get you acclimated to looking at the report, that's basically the status of expenditures and what the status of our budget is. So, and that's phase 1, the Redwood. Then the next slide.
Okay.
Okay, next step. Basically, FRC's gone out to bid with the phase 1 portion, not to confuse the two projects, but phase 1 for Redwood is to do the site work, the foundation prep, because we have a DSA permit for that currently. We don't have the permit for the whole building just yet. We may have it by the end of the week. So to move things along faster, we have to go out to bid for the site work. They've got numbers for that. They haven't quite shared it with us yet because they're kind of working out details with QKA on what we salvage or logistics. And they're real cognizant. They don't want to give us a price and say, oh, wait, it changed because we changed our mind or we clarified something. So we've got a couple questions to the QKA, and then we'll be bringing forward to you a GMP for the phase 1 site work coming up shortly. Possibly we'll bring both of them to you at the same time because they're currently out to bid for the second phase, which is the rest of the building. They're out to bid right now with a preliminary set or an almost complete set. We're just waiting for DSA to say, yes, it's approved. We can make any clarifications that were modifications in the approval process and then get final numbers for the second phase for the building portion of it. So we're really at the cusp of starting here. We're just trying to get, dot our I's and cross our T's before we get going out there. We had our first pre-construction meeting with the contractor today, in fact. So we introduced the inspector from DSA and started talking about logistics on how we're going to start construction and play nice with the occupants around us because it's going to be an occupied site. So we're at the cusp of starting here. So hopefully I'll be bringing you a GMP shortly. I think I'm ready for the next slide. Okay, this is the same deal. It's in your bond report. It's the summary. And it's what we've expended to date in our budget that we're carrying for phase 2, the old ed project. Eventually I'll have another one like this for the third phase of the bond, but we're not that far along yet that we don't have a budget and so on. So you'll see that. Okay, next slide. All right, I'm gonna work from memory because I can't read that. The big exciting thing we got other than having a nice meeting yesterday about materials is we got through the CEQA process and it was a lot more smoother than we even anticipated. We thought we were gonna have to do some kind of dog and pony show to get a neg deck. They were able to justify that, we're next to a school, there are some exclusions, so we didn't have to go through the whole 9 yards CEQA process. We just did the bare minimum, and we've got approval. It's been recorded with the county. So we're essentially done with the CEQA process, a lot quicker than we thought we were gonna be. So that's not an obstacle anymore. We also got the toxic report. The site's clean, and that department in the state also said, we're done with you. You don't need to do anything further. So two great news on the peripheral on that project. So now we just got to figure out our colors and keep rolling. I think that's all we got. Any questions?
I've got one, and it's
Jerry?
under description of different expenditures. What is included in construction support?
Did you hear that, Don?
Support. If you look in the report at the detail, you'll see it's kind of color coded, but it's basically the cost of the inspector, the cost of me, the cost of a testing agency that we need to hire. It's everything that happens during the construction period that is on and above the contractor's cost.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I try to color code it. If you look at the detailed one at the back of the report, you'll be able to see which ones are construction support on all those line items.
Any other questions from the board? This might be a Wendy question, but when we have the numbers, when does it trigger with our taxpayers? I don't know if we're still working under the first phase of the bond that the taxpayers are paying for that we would have gotten for December to pay. Like, this isn't going to trigger, once we get the numbers, it's not going to trigger that to be altered.
No.
Not, yes,
No,
we're still working on the first.
The taxes that are being paid are based on the bonds that were sold.
Right.
So the next bond sale will change it, but the work we're doing doesn't have any impact on that.
So this phase 1 and phase 2 won't trigger another selling.
Well, it may, because by the time we get into the meat of all the alt-ed campus, we will need to sell the second round.
Okay. And because I know there was a little bit of a hiccup with the, I don't know, this is layman terms, but with the county, there is an estimate of bond money, and sometimes they can spread it out a little bit when they've not estimated appropriately, or they can give it to you all in 1 year. So I'm hoping that we don't get hit.
Our bond money
was
is
good.
our bond money.
Okay.
We have it sitting in an account. And they collect the taxes, every year, and they put it in a little fund that is in order to collect those amounts. And it generally is, they collect a little more than each year's outlay, hopefully, so that when you get to some of the larger payments at the end of the bond term, there is money there to pay it. So, and I get an accounting at the end of every year of what came in and what went out in the way of principal and interest payments, but it's not at all tied to our activity.
Okay, very good. Okay,
And
thank you.
Does the next bond sale come before the board, before it happens?
Yes.
So the public will be
The
notified
public will be
and,
well aware of any happening of this. I've actually started reaching out to find out, because it's always a little tricky, because you want to make sure you get the best possible interest rate so that you're paying the least amount of interest over the term of the bonds, which saves your taxpayers money. You also want to make sure that there's a reasonable market for the bonds, because if nobody's buying them, then it makes it more difficult to sell them, and what you get is going to be less, and it's going to cost you more. And so sometimes that means, maybe anticipating a little bit, like we did this time. We sold them because it was an absolute perfect condition to do it, and in the long run will save all of the taxpayers a lot of money for doing it when we did. So we're starting to look at the trends and things now for the next sale, so that if we hit this is the perfect time to move, we can start coming to the board and saying, okay, we're looking at, in 3 months, we think this is going to be a prime time to do it. And so you'll have plenty of warning and discussion to make
Need
that
some water?
call.
Do you want some water?
There's water in the back, Mr. Kale.
Get 'em some. Thank you for answering that, because I know it's kind of complicated, and we want to make sure the public is aware of the process. Are there any other questions for Don Alameda while he's with us? Looks like everyone's updated. Thank you.
Thank you, Don,
Okay.
for coming. We really
Thanks, Don.
appreciate it.
All right, thank you, now, I enjoy coming, so, any board meeting you need, I'll be available.
Thank you.
So, all right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Don.
Okay, all right, bye-bye.
So 8.34 is the second benchmark data review.
So this will be from Fort Bragg Middle School and Fort Bragg High School. So who would like to start? Laura Vieira, Fort Bragg Middle School? I think because your slides are first.
Okay, and that's fine, and
That
I
is-
actually was, anyway, so, let's go. So, was it last Wednesday? Last Wednesday during early release time, Fort Bragg Middle School met with Fort Bragg High School staff, and we looked at our second iReady benchmark, and in terms of our data analysis in terms of student achievement, using the Kelly Smith training that we'd all had on November 1st. So this is just a follow-up from that first report that we brought to the board. And I think really the highlight is the slide that says action plan. Our action plan has remained the same. We wanted to have more than one set of data to see if what we're doing is working. So I don't remember the order of the slides, but when you go through that report, it comes to the end and we have a reading focus and a math focus. Oh.
You should be able to just scroll right through.
Okay. So all of our teams met with their counterparts at the high school. So you can read through the humanities, analyzing all of their work. And I'm just going to scroll through quickly. It's in your packet. Our math teams met together as well, focusing on theirs. The PE department, I'm just going to scroll. And science department also. And then our action plan, which is what you saw the last time we reported, we're focusing on two things. We're still going to focus on academic vocabulary and explicitly teach it. And then we're also going to focus on the math standard, which is we're still focusing on the graphing and how we're going to support our students to get to grade level in both reading and mathematics. So overall, our plan remains the same. The good news is we did make progress in some areas, not, progress forward overall. Yes. I'm trying to figure out how to state it in a positive way because we have shown growth. It's just been really challenging, especially now with the surge. Although most of our benchmarks were completed before we left for winter break, so that was a good thing. We did have one content area in one grade level that they were kind of trickling in once we got back from in January. So overall, everybody showed growth on their achievement. And then, and I'm talking mostly about kids that are at grade level or above. The goal is always 80%, but there was a lot of movement from the below grade level up to approaching grade level. So in iReady, the bands are, and it's not on here, but it's green, yellow, and red. So a lot of kids that were in red moved into yellow, and then the kids that were in yellow moved into green. So we are making progress, and the more exciting part is we're looking at our data and our student achievement, and then it's helping with our pacing guides and our lesson planning. And we are filling in the gaps that we know our kids have from school closure during the shelter in place. Questions?
Any questions?
I don't really have a question. I just want to thank the staff district-wide, because I think during the beginning of COVID and the pandemic, everybody was so in survival mode that we didn't hear about student achievement, and we didn't hear. So everybody's still in survival mode, but it's so great that we do hear about kids achieving and doing better. And so I hope this work with Kelly Smith and the early release and things is a positive things for staff too, because they can see the kids improving. So
I
it's
think
nice
that
to
it
hear
is, and I
about.
think the opportunity to work with their colleagues at the high school in that secondary team we know where we're sending them, and then I think it helps our high school counterparts know who they're getting and where those supports need to be, and also where that acceleration has happened. So we're a unified district. I really think it helps unify us, and that consistency. We've worked with Kelly now for several years, and so a lot of our teachers, they know what they're getting. They know what the plan is, because again, it's explicit teaching also for our staff, and that consistency and that moving forward. And Kelly has worked with us for long enough now that she knows how to differentiate for our teachers and where they are at in their learning as well. So I love the consistency, and it's working. I mean, we are definitely showing growth, so that part is exciting as well.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so will you have that collaboration with the high school again, or is it a once a year?
We've done it twice. So we did it November 1st. We did it just last week. And I think we have one more. We have one
Nice.
more after we do our third benchmark.
Great.
And those are due to be done March. I don't remember the exact
Great.
date. But
Thank
we'll
you.
be coming back again a third time so we can look at the whole school year and what that span of growth was.
Thank you. Now we have Fort Bragg High School.
Would you use a fancy mouse here?
You might
Okay.
need to move the
Move the mic up a
microphone
little
up. Sorry.
That's
Thank you,
okay.
Mr. Triplett.
All right. And I will scroll through again, but I think the highlights, if you look through them, what is great to see is when, you're seeing that terminology or what their goal that they wanted, the different groups. But what I like is when they notice that someone is not doing as well, I think because of our data training that we've been doing, they're pinpointing why, and they're asking why. And I think normally, when, benchmarks, it almost felt like a process. We just do it. But they really weren't, I think they were looking at it, but they weren't sharing it. And I think with the training with Kelly Smith, they're taking it to heart. And I know it's been difficult, with the pandemic, with all of these short-term contracts. I mean, they're tired. But, at one point, we had a meeting with Kelly, and we were discussing, should we, she could feel it, I think, too. Should we switch things around? And so we gave a vote to our staff, and they voted, no, we're going to continue on. So, it just, I think they appreciate, even though it is difficult, it's hard, and it just takes a lot of work that, they're I think they're enjoying it, and I think the talks that they're having, I think even though it is difficult, they know the importance, which they've always known, but I think it's pinpointing what they're doing, and I think it's been good to see. There's the discussions they're having, and they're like, okay, I think the English, I looked at the department minutes just yesterday, and they noticed a group that was struggling a little bit, and so they're adding more questions on warm-ups and things like that to improve in certain areas, so which is good to see. So I think when you go through the end of it, our action plan, similar to what Laura said, it's still the same. Ours is we're trying to take a school-wide focus, and we're working on, let me get to it here. There we go. So we're looking at, the vocabulary, school-wide, focusing on school, the academic vocabulary. That's going to help in every subject. And then, having that strong evidence supporting what they're reading in their text or something like that. So, I think all of our groups are focusing on school-wide, but each department is individually looking at how they can improve on in their certain areas as well. So it's been good to see. And it's been reading their minutes. It's been nice looking at their conversations they're having. So it's been good to see it through the school.
Great. Any other questions for high
I
school?
just want to pass on, so I was asked by a staff member if we actually read this. And so I just want to make sure that you tell the staff that I do read this, and that we all, it's not just something to check a box, that we
Right.
really do want to hear about what our students are doing and what the staff is doing. So thank you for the extra steps and putting it in the nice presentation, but we do appreciate it.
Yeah, the pause and the analysis in this format, and it's streamlined, it really does provide clarity for us, because I'm not an educator, so it's very exciting to see the same format, because it's much more clear and there's unification within the district. So it seems more meaningful, and we're here for the public as well, so they can see what kids are learning in areas that are being focused. It's all good stuff. But, saying it out loud, I think, is hard if you're a staff member, because you've got, the skin in it, but as a public member and a parent, it provides trust to understand what's going on at school and the work that's being increased. So I think the format is really nice, and to have everyone using the same kind of format is really helpful, so it's meaningful. So thank you for everyone's efforts.
Okay.
And so the next on the item is declaration and findings regarding need for temporary staffing flexibility pursuant to Executive Order N0322.
So I wanted to share this executive order with you. We actually don't need board approval, which is why it's in a report, but we do have to provide the declaration should we want to capitalize on this declaration. So in full disclosure, I wanted to just share this with you so that you know that we've done it. The declaration has been made. It doesn't need board approval, but this allows us to move forward with some of the flexibility with staffing due to COVID.
And I'm surprised at, I don't watch the news for my sanity, but how this really, not just through CSBA, but other avenues, this was really
Public.
publicized. I
Mhm.
was, I don't know.
Which is why we wanted to share it. It was very clear that it didn't need board approval, but I think it's important for all you to know, we did it, so.
Right. And do you anticipate being able to increase the, subs, or we're not there yet? I mean, that we need to
Well, we're
use.
trying. We're trying to do 1 or 2 people. So what this basically does, it allows us to hire people to be a substitute teacher in our district, given they have a degree, a 4-year degree from an accredited university, and they pass the Department of Justice fingerprinting. The hard part is Fort Bragg Police Department isn't doing fingerprinting right now.
Mhm.
So we're trying to do on the mobile fingerprint lab that comes out once a week.
And there is south of town, the lady Barrett. She
Yes.
does live scan too as well.
So I think that's who we're
Oh,
going
is that
to.
the mobile?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the mobile. So
Yep.
we're trying to do that. So those are the 2 main things, and then any HR requirements from us. And for us, it's the wonderful Keenans. So and then they have to have a TB test. What am I missing? TB, fingerprints, degree, clearance. So what it allows you to do, it allows you to forego the CBEST or any of those
Mhm.
credentialing components, like tracking your transcripts for certain grades to bypass the CBEST. It eliminates that with the hope and the intention of being able to get people into the classroom a little bit faster to provide substitute teacher services. So right now, we have one person that Susie is working on, trying to move that person through the fast track using this declaration, and there was someone else. So I think we've got 2 people in the queue that we're trying to do. The hiccup right now is the fingerprinting part.
Okay.
So we're trying.
Great. Thank you. And so the next item on the superintendent report is Redwood Elementary Library update.
So what I love about this part of the superintendent report is we really are trying to make a concerted effort to provide you with highlights in the district other than COVID. And I just want to do a real shout out for Kelly Sutton. She is an amazing soul. And every time I walk into the Redwood Library, not only are there kids in there, but there's always a display of something that's going on that week or that month. And she has one of the most kind and sweetest demeanors and works with children. And throughout the entire pandemic, Kelly got on Facebook Live and was one of the first people to start recording stories so that kids could hear her read a story to them. And I remember the first time that I saw it, and I know this sounds completely sappy and emotional, but I just about broke down in tears because I remember that special time with library with my own children Like, that was Mitchell's favorite time of the week, to go to library and have someone read to him. I read to him, I swear. So, I love that we're able to do this. So, Renee, who has libraries near and dear to her heart as well, was able to go and take some pictures. So you have a report in the board packet, but here's Kelly. She's our fabulous librarian, and our librarian assistant, I should say. And then here's one of her displays.
Oh, yeah. This was a section she wanted to share. These are very, very popular characters in her book, so.
And I have to tell you, when I walked in and saw some of these characters, like the pigeon, don't let the pigeon drive the bus. I remember that vividly with my kids, and it totally took me back to that time where we would just get animated and don't let the pigeon drive the bus. And so having those characters up there, the kids identify them with them, it's really great. So she really provides an incredibly special place for our students and encourages reading with their families, and is able to expand the book selection in the library. So we're excited. So we just wanted to spend a few minutes to highlight Kelly Sutton and the great work that she's doing at the Redwood Library.
Great, thank you. And since my youngest is 16, I actually have to admit I had to listen to a few of her stories over the pandemic because I didn't know that one. But she is great. And when I went to open house or back to school, everyone was so worried because they couldn't find the librarian, because I don't think she was there that evening. And I remember telling her, people were looking for you. So I think they were easing back to people on campus and whatnot, but she felt loved. She's very loved. So thank you for the report. 8.4, do we have a report from CSEA?
So we have no report from CSEA and FBDTA as well.
Okay. Thank you so much. So the next item on the agenda is the consent items, and these are normally routine and non-controversial. Items on the consent agenda are passed in one motion without discussion. Any items may be pulled from the consent agenda by the board and moved to action when approving the agenda. So does anyone have anything to pull? Otherwise, may I have a motion?
Make a motion, we approve the consent calendar.
In a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Seeing no objections, so moved. And we are, believe it or not, to our action items. 10.1 is our FBUSD masking guidance for 2021-22 school year. Do we have an update for that?
So I am going to suggest that 10.1 and 10.2 be tabled until the next board meeting, because there's no change to the guidance right now that's going to be put in print. So I did give you an update on the isolation, that has been updated, but we don't have updated protocols to give you until I can work with our COVID school liaison to provide those in written form. So right now, there's nothing to be updated to 10.1 and 10.2, and my recommendation would be to table those until February 10th.
Okay, and so CDPH has also no update on masking or anything? Nothing on the state level?
Not that impacts us.
Okay. So do we have any clarifying questions from the board or any questions? Otherwise, do we have any public comment on these two items before
We're
we
not being
move?
streamed right now, just
Oh,
so you
okay.
know. So apologies again to the public
Okay.
when you see this after the fact. There is no public comment.
Okay.
Nate, again, is recording this so that it can be uploaded
Okay.
at the end of the evening.
So may I have a motion to table 10.1 and 10.2 if there's no objections?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Very good. I don't know if we have to do a roll call for those tabled. I guess we can.
Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
Trustee Paoli?
Yes.
And motion carries.
Thank you. So brings us to 10.3, which is the teleconferencing virtual meeting requirement pursuant to AB 361.
So one of the things we have to be cognizant of when we pass this resolution at each board meeting, in order to hold a teleconference meeting, you need to have this every 30 days. So for instance, in December, the last December meeting, I believe, was December 13th. Well, 30 days from December 13th should be really January 13th. Well, today's January 20th. So even if you wanted to hold this meeting virtually, we couldn't have done it because we didn't pass this resolution within 30 days. So the good news is for next meeting, it's February 10th. That's well within 30 days of January 20th. So just be cognizant of that as we move forward. This can be done at a special meeting or a regular meeting. I'm pleased that we're all here tonight, so I'm glad we were able to hold it and to do that with the quorum. So right now, this is just so that you have the ability to move to a virtual meeting if you so choose.
Okay. And I think the discussion we had in November was that we were just doing this precautionary if, unfortunately, we were all in isolation or quarantine at the same time, we wouldn't be able to do business because we wouldn't have a quorum and we have to have 3. But the only tricky part is I don't know how you predict, like all of COVID time, you can't really plan ahead because we were informed by legal that the location has to be disclosed 72 hours ahead of when we would go virtual, but we don't know when we're going virtual. So I don't see any other agency putting where, you know, like city council does it. I don't know where their location is. So that
for
seems
us,
tricky.
For us, we would need to make the decision. So for instance, the next meeting is on the 10th. So let's pretend that we kind of knew in advance that we may not have a quorum or that there were some issues and we had to run this virtually. We could, when we post the agenda on the 7th, we would say, this is going to be a virtual meeting and here's the link to attend the meeting, and we would run it like we did during shelter-in-place times.
The old ways.
So we would need to make that decision as a board, as a body, at 72 hours in advance so that the location of the meeting could be publicized.
So we just really need to check in with our
Right.
board members, because would it count if I don't know the issue why we would be going, but you can't just go to a different room on this campus. That's not the same location.
No, the public is entitled to know the location of the board members when we're holding a live meeting. So if we wanted to spread out more and you take this room and
Yeah.
so forth, the location of the meeting would have to be disclosed.
Right.
So if we are going to meet from home, then the location of the meeting would have to be disclosed as a virtual meeting, and the public would have to have the opportunity to be able to join in a virtual meeting.
In a virtual meeting.
So what we did when we were holding meetings virtually is that Nate would live stream it.
Right.
Now, we've been having difficulties in this room with the internet connection. And part of that is because the internet between the Diedrich Center and this school, the line underneath the concrete has been severed. So Ari has created a Wi-Fi connection with one satellite from the JD Center pointing to a satellite at the high school. If that gets bumped or moved even just a little bit, it obstructs the stream, which your phones yesterday, Dana Gray in high school, the reason they weren't working was because that table got bumped. Okay, so Ari fixed it today, he figured it out, but we're working on fixing the line. So for us, right now, I am concerned about the streaming because I think right now that our internet is compromised because of that severed line. So
Okay.
do you want to have it virtual next time? You know, do we want to move the location to be in a place with better internet? We could do that. Believe it or not, we could do it from the middle school library to ensure that we had a better connection. The hard part is it would mean moving all of this over there.
Yeah, which is tough. It takes a while.
It's a lot. It takes a long time to set up, and it's a lot of equipment.
Yeah.
So for now, my recommendation would be if you feel the need to go virtual, then we pull the virtual card and we disclose that in the agenda. If you don't, then we meet in this room.
Right.
And worst case scenario is we ask Nate to record it and then upload it later.
Okay. Yeah, just for precautionary, and I guess just at agenda setting, we have to just be clear to be in touch with everyone. And then actually on the agenda, if we were all at our home, all of our home addresses would be on the agenda?
No, actually, by passing this resolution, you can forego that piece.
Okay. Which, yeah, that seems, anyway, okay, we'll check in with the details as it gets closer, but I'm hoping that we can still continue to be in person. Do you have any other discussion? And is there any public comment?
Because we're
I guess
not streaming.
Unless they just pop, I mean, I guess at any moment they could just know that maybe we're at that point in the agenda. May I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the resolution, right? For AB 361.
The teleconferencing virtual meeting requirement pursuant to AB 361.
One second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
Trustee Bailey?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. So that'll at least give us some options. We like to have choices instead of have no choices if we need something in the future. So the next item on the agenda is 10.4, which is the school accountability report for alternative education. And I know we were notified by Superintendent Walker that the data that usually just populates from the state, is not included on these cards because you haven't received it yet.
So the data was populated after this was printed. There are some blanks, but those, CDE emailed all of us and said, just go ahead and get them approved, and they will populate them when the reports are uploaded. So just so folks know, there are things that we can't upload. It has to be done through CDE or through document tracking services. So this is due February 1st. CDE made it really clear that they wanted these approved by February 1st and uploaded. The SARCs are pretty non-controversial in nature, to be quite honest with you. You'll see the narratives from all the principals. In truth, this is the data that, again, that comes to us from CDE. You'll see the year, so please pay special attention to that. You'll see the class assignments and the misassignments, and you'll see different years on that. Some things we report on the year that we are doing, some things we report from the previous year. And what's interesting is staffing is from 2 years ago. So it's how it came to us. I even called CDE because I thought that was an error. And they called me back and said, nope, that's how we're doing it this year. And I said, okay, I just want to be clear. Our school accountability report cards could have information from at most 3 years. And the response was, this year, yes. So that's why it looks a little confusing. It's not an error. I did double check. So you have in front of you Connie's, and she can talk about it next time, but it still does need to get uploaded and approved by February 1. So I can try and answer questions for you if you had them on Connie's report.
Does anyone have any questions? So the only thing that I had to look up, because I'm thinking, well, how, we're approving it with some data missing, which we have no control over. It's just not in there. And the point of the SARC actually is for, as it says here, from CDE, is to provide parents and the community with important information about each school. So it's kind of like a disclosure part of it. So I'm totally comfortable having us approve with the blanks, but the point of the report is for parents. So do we want to put it back on the agenda, information and discussion as disclosure, or just let the parents know, by Parent Square that it's been uploaded by February 1 or whenever the deadline is? It just seems weird to have an agreement that has, or a report that's not complete.
I would agree with you, and that's what we were told to do. So what we can do, we always publicize our SARCs on our school website. So once the completed document has the data in there, we'll put that in our public documents folder that's posted on the FBUSD webpage.
Okay, perfect. And the only question I had, I see at each site, are we still at the same pace of doing curriculum? There are some books that are over 10 years old, and I know that was kind of like your threshold. Is that kind of on the back burner for now?
So right now in the rotation, we did the science and the social studies books from the middle school and high school. We need to, the next part on the rotation is either going to be social studies for K-5 or science for K-5. And right now, I believe the staff is more interested in science for K-5. So we're going to start looking at getting some samples. And what we'll do is next year will be a year that we start looking at some review of materials. That's going to be a pretty substantial chunk of change. So we have been hoarding away some of our textbook money so that we can do this. I anticipate that this is probably going to be a $600,000 or $700,000 adoption.
Wow. Because one subject's at least 10,000, so that's...
Well, you figure when you look at it from the middle school and high school, when we do one subject adoption at the middle school or high school, it's $50,000 or $60,000, and that's for one subject. Well, we're going to be doing it for 6th grade levels. So
it's a lot.
It's going to be substantial.
Okay, so I don't think we have any public comment, but while I'm asking for a motion for Alt Ed.
Make a motion, we approve item 10.4, the school accountability report card for Audited.
And I second.
Very good. Roll call, please.
Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
President Paoli?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Very good. And we will move on to the Redwood Elementary School Accountability Report Card. And we have Lindy Erickson.
All right. Like Mrs. Walker was explaining, most of the information in here is not controversial. It rolls over from year to year. I have made some amendments and a couple edits to the grammar. And the data is in my report because I was working on it up until the last minute. And so I lucked out and the numbers are in there. I wanted to speak a little bit to the academic data that's in there. Usually Redwood gets lumped in with Dana Gray, and those CASP scores are what we use to talk with you about the student achievement and progress. And we're not using that this year. So this data that's in here is from the May 2021 iReady diagnostic. So we use the iReady program for both teaching and assessing the learning that's going on in our schools, K8, excuse me. So this is that third diagnostic assessment. And then I wanted to see if there were any questions. I will add, it was a little bit tough to get everybody to take the test. At that point in the year, we did have lots of students on campus, but we still had quite a few students who were learning remotely, and there were lots of hiccups with the technology trying to get those assessments completed. And we also had quite a number of students whose families requested to work on packets. So they were coming into the school site 1 hour a week to work with a teacher in person. But they weren't able to access the material online, and it was very difficult to complete those assessments given 1 hour a week when we really wanted to provide them with instruction and the feedback on the work that they'd been doing.
So thank you so much for the data. That must have been a lot of work because
Thanks
normally.
Thanks to Renee. She really helped me work on that data, so she came to the rescue. Thank you.
And is that something that you will continue to do?
We will. So
okay.
this is going to be a great foundation to start with. We're going to be able to refer back to this so that we can really measure growth over time.
Great, thank you. Any questions from the board? Thank you so much.
Okay.
So may I have a motion for 10.5?
I'll move to approve the school accountability report card for Redwood Elementary.
In a second
I'll
from
second.
Jerry. Roll call, please.
President Paoli?
Yes,
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
Motion carries.
very good. 10.6 is the school accountability report. Dana Gray, Mr. Kale.
And in the same way, it's non-controversial. It's interesting to me because I spend a lot of time looking at this stuff. But it's because I'm funny with the data. The most kind of exciting pieces, which I mean, just for flavor of the school, it's interesting. The facilities overall rating for Dana Gray is good. It was interesting when the person came to do the FIT report, which was in September of this year, of 21. Barry came in and said, "Boy, that guy was tough," and he was tough. Like, looking for thermometers in the refrigerators. He was. I mean, it's great too. Like, it's like, okay. The S hooks of the swings were not pressed properly together, according to him. And we're looking at, okay, all right, we'll do that. And we squished them more, and they met the mark. They noticed a lot of it was very related to returning to in-person instruction. Bookshelves moved to one side or the other, not secured to the walls, all of those kinds of things. It was really interesting. And he had the phrase clutter, that some classrooms had clutter. Like, what is he describing? I'd go in and there'd be an empty box in the corner or something. It's like, wow, this guy is tough. So that's good. Keep us on our toes. The data, we would normally, and it's interesting in this report, I'm sorry, Laura, it's interesting in this report that the types, they want data from 1819, they want data from, like all the different areas. And it was the first time we've ever seen this design, even to the point of like, you could put a logo on the front, and we'd never been able to put a logo on the front, and I didn't know what the logo, anyway, I made a logo for the front. The data, the end of the year iReady data is really kind of a one-off at this point, because we really focus on the CASP as the end of the year data. But it is interesting, and just like Lundy said, this is internal data that of the iReady that we will use. Like, we will use that third benchmark data to inform our instruction going forward, but we never had that in this kind of report before. It was always CASP data. So it was interesting. And again, to Renee, like, for putting it together for us. It was amazing, amazing work. Just specific to the data, it still reflected a lot of what we know, the over, I don't think it can be taken as really strong evidence, but we saw underperformance of subgroups that we see reflected in the CAPS data again and again. And just, I don't know if you're looking at the same one as I am, but page 9, you see 42.4% of all students being above or at or above for the ELA. And then you see racial subgroups, you just see the difference between them. And the data is basically the same. It reflects what we had before. If you look at just another thing that's very interesting, the way they're collecting chronic absenteeism data in this report now, which I was looking back, they didn't before. So now it's reflected in this report as well. I went back to the California dashboard. This is how lame I am. I went back to the California dashboard. During that COVID time, really heavy COVID time, it's saying we had a chronic absenteeism rate of 11.1%. This is populated from the state. 2 years ago, it was 7.1. So yeah, it obviously went up, but it's interesting that it's now in a new place, and we'll be able to look at that data in a new way. And then really the kind of part that gives me a giggle is the suspension rate. Last year, my suspension rate, 2 years ago, it was 1.85, and then it dropped 1.4, which is awesome. But then in 2021, the suspension rate was 0. I didn't suspend anyone ever during the whole year. So that's odd. It was an extraordinary year.
That was a remote learning year.
Yes, that was the remote learning year. So it just went poof, all the way down. Anyway, any questions?
Anyone have any questions?
Just to let the board know, the data is being collected in different ways. Like, this is the first time we've seen it in this pattern, and it's very different. So I think as we get better, learn this report year over year, it's going to be a much better tool for us as we move forward.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you so much. So may I have a motion for the Dana Gray School Accountability Report Card?
I'll make a motion, we approve the school accountability report card for the Dana Gray Elementary site.
And a second?
I second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
President Paley?
Yes.
The motion carries.
I will say that I don't get as excited about this because this seems more like a plug it in and you got to get it done. And anyway, so yes, I look at it, but I'm definitely not as excited as the other stuff that you guys are talking about tonight.
So the next is middle school for their school accountability report card.
So just as everybody, Laura Vieira, Fort Bragg Middle School. Just as everybody else has said, it's populated by our document tracking service. The narratives, I will let you know, our site council and our leadership teams went through the areas that we could contribute to quite extensively and did look at the new format. And they also had questions about approving a document that had blank pieces of data. And site council met on December 14th, and at that time, DTS had a note when you went into your template that it would be populated by December 16th or later. And then December 16th, I don't think it was even populated by then. So the same conversation that you had tonight as a board with the superintendent, we also had with leadership at the middle school and our site council. Questions?
No questions. Do you
Okay.
have questions?
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for the report. And may I have a motion for the middle school?
I guess it's my
Accountability?
turn. I move to approve the SARC report for the Fort Bragg Middle School.
And a second?
So moved.
You said it's a second. Jerry's a second. And roll call, please.
Trustee Mattson,
Yes.
Trustee Babcock,
Yes.
President Paley,
Yes.
the motion carries.
Very good. And we have our Fort Bragg High School accountability report card.
Let's vote no on this one, just to throw him off track.
First trip at Fort Bragg High School, and we took the CASP, so ours was not. So we did do the CASP test. We figured to stick with what the kids know and the staff knows. So our CASP, I think our data just popped in there. I think it was a couple days ago. So it is in there now. So any questions?
Does anyone have any questions for high school? I think the report's pretty interesting myself, but, and I did like the categories there. I don't remember some of these other categories, and so it is informative. If you were a parent new to the area, it's really an important document. So I know a lot of it's populated.
Some of it is a little sad though when you look at the averages and, I mean, like the salaries and stuff, but we do the best we can. I mean,
Right.
percentage-wise, I was looking at the, like the pupil personnel for our budget, and I mean, it's pretty close to the state average, even though
It's just
our
not quite
salaries
there.
aren't, competitive.
But the state of California region that's relative. I mean, our population is very different than LA. So if we're that close to the state average, I guess it's still not enough, but it's a subjective number for sure. Seeing that there are no questions, may I have a motion for school accountability report, high school?
I'll make a motion, we approve the school accountability report card for the Fort Bragg High School.
And I will second.
Very good. Roll call, please.
President Paley,
Yes.
Trustee Mattson,
Yes.
Trustee Babcock,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, so the public will be notified when these are up on our website. And I know I've asked before, are we able to get this translated yet? Or will these go through ELAC and DLAC so that it can be, I don't know, because it does say if you have 15% or more of your enrollment that speak a different language than English, they need to be translated.
Okay.
We've never done it before, but we will definitely call DTS.
See,
and
yeah,
make
I don't
sure
know if
it'll happen.
that requirement maybe can be met if it is families that don't speak English know what's in the document. I don't know if that's, I don't want to make more work, but it does.
We can ask DTS.
It's just cost.
Yeah.
It's just cost, you said? I don't know if I want that either. But anyway, I just know that's, people need to be able to read it.
Thank you, folks. Have a good evening.
Yes, please. Thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
Thank you, good night.
Stay well. So moving on to 10.9 is the certification of the categorical exemption for the Alt-Ed campus, which I think is the mini CEQA.
The negative declaration, yes.
Yes.
And basically, the board has to approve it. It's kind of weird when it's this simple and this clean. They can submit it to the county for certification even before the board approves it, because there's really nothing controversial.
Alarming.
There are no steps that have to be taken, there's nothing like that. So this is basically the board accepting that it does qualify for the negative declaration.
Are there any questions from the board?
This is exciting to me, because I've seen projects get bogged down because of a spotted frog for a long time, so I'm glad to have
Yeah.
this out of the way.
Well, I think because it's been our property
Sure.
for so long, I think that helped. I think the fact that there used to be trees there and nothing else, there wasn't any reason for concern about toxics. There wasn't, there just weren't some of the concerns.
Right.
And it's basically a similar use of school property, so it's not changing. It's changing in that we're putting a building on the spot, but
Sure.
it's been in school ownership for a very long time.
It's gonna be good to see completed.
Yep.
Yes, yes. I am also very excited to see that it passed the preliminary so that there's no, no longer more expensive process that holds up the project. So may I have a motion?
Your turn, Kathy.
I move to approve the categorical exemption for the Alted campus.
In a second,
Second.
roll call, please.
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
President Paoli?
Yes.
Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And the next item we have is 10.10. We flopped, Wendy prepared a thorough date schedule for us, and we were looking at an old calendar that didn't have the Monday, Juneteenth holiday. So we thought we were being efficient with everyone's time and picked a date that was a holiday, state holiday. So here we have before us the new amended schedule, which only changes the second June date to the original date that was suggested and recommended, the 23rd.
And note to self, when Wendy gives me a calendar and says, this is the recommendation, I bring it to you and say, this is the recommendation. So I apologize, Wendy Boyce. We were trying to move those
I just
Thursdays
won't miss any
together.
more meetings.
I know. Right, so, but this is how we have to amend it because it is a regular meeting, so it has to be done in open session of a regular meeting to amend the calendar.
Okay, and I think everyone did respond, and that date is good for everyone, you know, as of yesterday. So may I have a motion to approve the new schedule?
Make a motion, we amend the schedule of regular board meetings to reflect the June 20th meeting will be moved to June 23rd.
In a second?
I second.
Very good. Roll call, please.
Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
President Paoli?
Yes.
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. 10.11 is 2020-21 audited financial statements prepared by Christy White Associates.
Okay, so this year, the state did not provide the audit guides to the accounting firms, auditing firms, until a couple of weeks ago. So they had the audits essentially done, but they can't finish them until the state provides the audit guide so that they can check all the boxes to make sure they've done everything. And that was because of a lot of the COVID things and the independent study things and the online learning things. And so that's why this is later than it usually is. Normally this has to be done by December 15th, but it was extended by the state because of this. So that's why we're at January 20th instead. If we had had our normal meeting the second Thursday, it would have to wait till February, but the state kind of allowed that this year. And as a former auditor, I always encourage everybody to start at the back and move forward, because that's where the really interesting stuff is. And in this case, there was one condition that they commented on, and this kind of ties into why they were using staffing numbers from 2 years ago in the SARCs, is because 2021 was a really odd year. It was a really off year. And because of the combination of being remote and a lot of district staffs were down because of that. They just made do with the online component. That combined with the excessive amount of one-time money that flowed in meant that the 55% threshold of teacher salaries didn't get net by a lot of districts, and we missed it by like 2.5%. So I talked to the county and I said, well, I can spend a whole lot of time mucking with this and making adjustments to the different COVID things and trying to get them exempted from the calculation and everything. And they said, don't worry about it. We have a lot of districts in this. Just request the exemption for this year, and then we'll move on. So staffing is way back to normal now, so that this year is not going to be an issue. And we've already requested and received the exemption, so this isn't going to have any impact on us moving forward. So that was the only thing, only finding, which was, I was very pleased given the unusual nature of attendance and all of that last year, so. And then a lot of the rest of the report is an exercise in translating what we do on a cash basis to what they do in the real world. And so there's a lot there that's kind of convoluted and difficult to explain and understand, but I'm happy to look at any of those schedules if you want to.
No, I went back to the last few pages as well.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions for Wendy?
No, just another great job. Thank you for keeping us solvent.
And we are up, this was the final year of the 3-year contract with Christy White, so the county is sending out RFPs to audit firms all over the state again on behalf of all of us, because we figure we'll get a better rate if a lot of us from one area. I have worked, I already know that the managing partner can't work with us next year because it's been 5 years, so we'll have a different, even if we end up with Christy White again, we'll have a different audit lead to work with next year.
That's
So,
just the standard.
That's just that's a requirement of auditing firms,
Okay.
that the lead accountant
Varies.
has to rotate after a certain amount of time. So that way, even if you have the same firm, you have a different group of people essentially
Right.
working with you.
Another set of eyes
Yep.
looking, which I think is smart.
Mhm.
So do they require, because I know in the past, maybe it was due to COVID, but do they still go into the district office and interview kind of everyone? They used to bring in a board member or
Right,
two,
we
but that's
haven't-
not,
They didn't this year.
Yeah.
Last year, I think they did a couple of phone calls.
okay,
And so that's probably what, we did not see anybody physically this year.
Okay.
And I think because they didn't see anything that concerned them, they
And
didn't
maybe
push
with
for the phone
COVID.
call. So I imagine that they'll get back to that next year if people start traveling again, but this is the second year of a virtual audit, essentially. I mean, we send them all the same, they have a portal that we use, and they request all the same documents, but it's nice because we're not shuffling paper.
so you are
People
still
just
doing
upload
it, it's just virtually, pretty
Yeah,
much.
everything.
Yeah,
They
uploaded.
ask for all the same things, they ask the same questions.
Okay,
Give them the same.
so we're still getting the
information.
service.
Oh, yeah,
thoroughness,
absolutely.
yeah.
It's not any less rigorous.
Okay.
It's just electronic.
Okay, so,
That's interesting. I'd be curious to see if they do actually come back, because we're starting to do all our workman's comp and liability insurance virtually, and it's simpler for us.
It probably saves them money, it might save us money in the long run too, if they
Mhm.
can do it virtually.
well, they don't have to
Although
travel.
as an auditor, there is some benefit to actually doing a site visit, because you can see the physical setup and see is what they're saying about their internal controls possible given the physical layout, that kind of thing. So
Mhm.
I wouldn't be surprised if they do a preliminary visit or an interim visit just to check kind of those things out, but maybe not come to do the
3-day thing, yeah.
So I'm guessing it'll be some kind of a hybrid.
Okay, yeah, because I remember the day I went with Jerry, and there's someone in there with boxes and boxes, and they're just kind of working through it all. So I could see that benefit.
Was it you and I that talked to that young lady in Barry's office that time?
Yeah, that was quite a few years ago. Okay, so may I have a motion if there are no other questions?
Is it my turn? I move to approve the 2021 audited financial statements.
In a second, very good. Roll call, please.
President Paoli,
Yes.
Trustee Mattson,
Yes.
Trustee Babcock,
Yes.
motion.
Very, very good. Thank you. So the next item is 10.12, possible final action on expulsion of a student, 2201. And this item we discussed in closed session. And so do we have a motion? Which was, well, what we discussed
Make
was
a motion if you give me the wording.
to approve stipulation for expulsion for student 2201.
So moved.
Well, you say, yeah, that you move to approve the stipulation for expulsion for student 2201, so that you made the motion, and then do we have a second?
I second.
Okay. Roll call?
Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
President Paoli?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And 10.13 is employee conference workshop attendance requests.
So anytime we have employees who would like to attend a conference out of state, that has to be approved by the board. So the counselors have requested to attend the American School Counselor Association Annual Conference. This year it's in Austin, Texas. Mark Foley, Erica Malsum, and Catherine Bernsdorf would like to attend that conference. So it comes to you as a board to approve. And then the administrators, we get the majority of our professional development comes from the Association of California School Administrators. And the North State Conference that happens every year in April is on the Nevada side in Lake Tahoe because it's cheaper. So, but it's still crossing state lines, so we still have to come and ask. Right now, myself, Jamie Alexander, and Laura Vieira are requesting to go. Laura Vieira is the vice president of our AXA region, and she's actually part of the conference committee, so she has to go. So the nice thing is that her travel and her hotel is paid for because of her role. And then I'm the Region 4 superintendent rep, so I'll need to attend that conference, but my travel is not going to be paid for. So Jamie and I would share a room. So there might be more administrators who want to go, but it's all going to be dependent on where we are with COVID, to be quite honest with you. I don't like taking too many people out, but it's a valuable conference and we're able to get a lot of information. The timing of it is what I appreciate more than anything because it leads us into the fall. All of the anticipation for the May revise and the budget, and then any of the bills that the legislatures are considering voting on in June, all that comes to head. So I haven't been able to attend a North State Conference for a myriad of reasons. I'm hoping I could do this one, but we need approval from you for the counselors and for us. And Kathy, you could probably talk about the ASCA conference.
Well, I never went to a conference,
Oh.
but
Well, Erica went last year on her own nickel, and she absolutely raved about it. So I would love for us to be able to send our counseling team.
Anyone have any questions?
No.
And
Thank
I mean,
you all for doing this
yeah,
up there in Cyberland.
it's always,
so I'll move to
Yeah.
approve the travel and attendance requests.
in a
And
second.
I'll second.
Very good. Roll call, please.
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
President Paoli?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And then we have 10.14, board policy updates, which you guys discussed, I think, on December 9th. And there wasn't anything controversial. There were a few options, but they were also just current practice. I think there was only a recommendation in the governing board election about a candidate statement that could be virtual, or not virtual, but online to save costs. But I don't believe the district has ever paid for any candidate statements. So it's kind of a funny policy. So does anyone have any questions or clarification from the discussion on the 9th? Otherwise, a motion?
I'll make a motion we approve item 10.1 for board policy updates.
And I second.
Very good. Roll call, please.
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
President Paoli?
Yes.
Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And we are down to the information and discussion of the agenda. So we have 11.1 FPDTA Sunshine Letter.
So these are the items that we are opening, that we are presenting to FBDTA, and they are sunshine until our next meeting. So the first time it's presented to the board and to the public is to provide everyone to kind of digest it and look at it and to provide public comment. So this is officially sunshining it. It doesn't necessarily have to be sunshine for 30 days. It has to be available to the public and to the board to sunshine. So I clarified that with Nancy Klein. So even though our next meeting is February 10th, which is less than 30 days, it doesn't need to be 30 days. It just has to be a length of time for more than a day that the public is able to be advised of it and have provided the opportunity for comment. So The FBDTA Sunshine Letter has several things in it because it's a full contract year. The whole contract is open for negotiations. And so that's what's in front of you. The same holds true for 11.2 with the CSEA contract. It's a full contract year. You're going to see that most of the things that we're putting out there with our bargaining units is to deal with cleaning up the contracts, the change in some labor laws, putting into print and memorializing the practices that we're doing. I was able to sit with Gary Lewis, the FBDTA president, and we went over the contract line by line, found lots of little errors, so Renee's working on that. And then I'm hoping to meet with Martha Lopez and do the same with her. But I did give both of the presidents both of their perspective letters.
Thank you. And this is just information and discussion, so I don't know if anyone's out there that for a public comment, but this would be the time to look.
We have no public comment.
Okay, thank you for checking. So that moves us to, unless there's any questions from the board. 11.3 is the new board policy administrative regulation updates, and I believe these are all new law and non-controversial really.
So
There's
President Paoli, I would like
Yes.
to pull board policy 5148, 5148.2
okay.
and administrative regulation 5148.2, the before and after school programs.
Yes.
Board policies, I do want to speak with legal about some of the new language as it pertains to the extended learning opportunity program. So I would like those pulled from action from next month until I can.
To give you time.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to put them on discussion for next month until I have time to meet with Nancy to discuss those two particular board policies.
Yeah, the board policy and the regulation. Okay.
Yes, the
I'm-
AR and the BP of 5148.2.
Before and after school programs. Okay,
Yes.
so I made a note of that we'll pull, and it may need to happen for the March meeting if you have your clarification. And was there any other questions? A lot of the early childhood education, course study, lots of new law, independent study, and then the transitional kindergarten.
And the transitional kindergarten, you'll be getting a report from us. It may not be in February. It's probably going to be in March. We are having a transitional kindergarten meeting on Monday. So I don't want our staff to feel like we're trying to push something through very quickly, but I do want to have time to work with our families as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I would think even if, I mean, nothing's being firmed up, but just so the families are getting some information, I think if we could leave some kind of information and discussion on.
I'm hoping to have something, like I said, for sure in March, but potentially on February 10th.
And then this, can you just speak on the independent study? It just makes it clear that the law is that you need to have in person, otherwise everyone would have to sign an independent study. Is that addressing that issue?
So this just kind of keeps the independent study going. So there are a lot of reasons to keep it. So for instance, right now with special ed students can attend through independent study, where before it had to, you had to work with your teachers to make sure that services could be provided. So this kind of puts a lot of that on hold, but it requires districts to provide an independent study program so that parents can have their kids at home for a myriad of reasons.
Okay.
So it's something that we need to
Continue.
It's something that we need to continue. It is a new law because of the pandemic.
Okay. So if there are no further questions, we'll just push this on to the next agenda, except excluding the two, the BP and the RA 5148.2, until legal's consulted. So that leaves us to the other part of our agenda. We have board reports. Does anyone want to give a brief announcement or report of activities or?
I have nothing to report.
Thank you. And Trustee Babcock?
Becky and I attended the Three Rivers board meeting last night, and some basketball games, and it was nice. We had a on-campus FFA meeting outside the other night for the kids that are going to go to the fair. They're saying that the fair will happen, but whether there's public there or not, but they're actually going to have an in-person fair. So it's very exciting for the youth of Mendocino County.
Very good. Thank you. And so I attended the Redwood Site Council via Google Meet, and that was really exciting. There's a great group of parents. And my question for Connie was going to be if with the exhibitions, if that's maybe taken some barriers down for families to feel like they have, they're on campus and maybe they want to join their site council. So that'll be a question I'll ask her, because I'm just curious, because sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. And if you're kind of, on campus a little bit more, I wondered if that encouraged parent support. And so I spoke briefly about attending the webinar. So if anyone needs that, they have the slide. And Capital Advisors is giving more governor budget information, but they did disclose the Legislative Action Day will occur in Sacramento, March 15th. I mean, this was last week in person. I don't think they're doing anything virtual. So it's tough. I don't know why they picked that particular day. It's always like a Tuesday. And so I don't know how someone travels to Sacramento and back. But if anyone's interested, I'm sure they'll give more information. And then they're also doing a new federal advocacy trip, coast to coast, they're calling it, to Washington, or for Washington, D.C. I'm not sure, I guess it is in Washington, D.C., April 25th and 27th in person, 2022. So just putting that out there to stay involved. And then I am reading the Welcoming to New Trustees, Chapter 4, and what I did work on, we'll reschedule our board workshop after tax season, but I'm doing brief summary of each chapter to share at that workshop, just the highlight of the focus of that chapter to keep us thinking about our roles as board members.
And I'm happy to do it before that. It's just
Yeah,
between work and
there's
kids' activities, my weekends
well,
are pretty.
given January was so tough, and then with the surge and all the obligations for our staff, I just figured there's nothing on that agenda that we couldn't discuss in April or May, really. So that was the push of changing it. It didn't feel right to be taking someone Saturday morning when everyone's fatigued. And so our next item, 12.2, is advanced planning suggestions for future board meetings. Do you foresee us having a special meeting coming up soon, or?
I don't think so.
Okay.
You did mention that you're canceling the board workshop, and we'll reschedule that at a later time. The next regular meeting is coming up so quickly, to be quite honest with you. I don't see a need at this point. And then we'll go to, after that, the next board meeting will be March 10th. The only time I foresee potentially scheduling a special board meeting is that time between March and April, when we're going to be looking at the benchmarks again.
Okay.
If the March agenda gets a little too big, we might want to consider doing a special for the benchmarks that will come from Redwood and Dana Gray. But I think the way they're reporting it right now, it's going pretty quickly, where before it would take a little bit longer. So I think if we continue to report the way we're reporting, we may not need a special meeting for that.
Okay. Very good. And so we always have agenda setting about 10 days prior, and I think Mary's the next. And I always bring our non-agenda item subjects to ask if folks have been contacted, and we just kind of keep those topics in discussion at the agenda setting. And I know I forgot to disclose that Kathy and I were at the board chat. We had a good discussion about ELOP, which is the expanded learning opportunities program, from a parent and community staff, or she's from the Mendocino Rec Center. We had a parent come this morning, so that was discussion that we had. I wanted to disclose that. So the housekeeping, so the January 22nd board workshop is going to be rescheduled, and all of the items on this calendar are Dana Gray, and I believe if everything is a virtual possibility. So Mary's willing to attend the virtual meeting. So I don't know if there's anything on there that's not virtual, but we'll check in with Dana Gray front office, was Mr. Kale's suggestion.
And like Joe mentioned, the freshman orientation is February 10th for Fort Bragg High School, and that's for incoming freshmen. So that's an exciting time for our kiddos.
I
So
really
eighth
stalled.
graders.
I was like, oh my God,
Already?
I have to go to that. Like,
That's you.
that's us. I can't believe
It
it's here.
comes very quickly, so February 10th. Okay. And there were some other items.
And the February 4th is the Fort Bragg Middle School Parents Club. I went and checked their website because I was feeling like I wasn't.
Okay.
It's a Friday. It's a very bizarre day, but
They rescheduled it. That's
Yeah.
why it's not already on here. 'Cause,
Yeah.
they took it off.
because of the surge, they.
Okay.
And Fort Bragg High School, like was mentioned, there was a winter ball scheduled for early February, and they've canceled that because of the current surge.
Okay. And I know that the high school will have a site meeting. Actually, I attended that as well, probably in a couple of months. So that'll be up and coming. So I believe if there are no other announcements or reminders, we're ready for the adjournment.
I'm amazed we're out of here at 8:36.
In a second.
I second.
Very good. Seeing no objection, we adjourn at 8:36.
Thank you, Nate.